Illustrated.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Kellyn, good to see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, all right, cool. Thanks, man. You faced Mexico in qualifying before, and you faced them in tournaments, right? Gold Cup, Nations League. How much difference is there between the build-up and the home field atmosphere in a qualifier versus sort of the quick turnaround and neutral site feel of like a Gold Cup final? Does that change the game at all on the field? Does it change the way it feels or the way you prepare or the way it kind of plays out?
I mean, in a way, yes. Obviously, being at home in a pro U.S. crowd is definitely huge. The qualifier play against Mexico was in Azteca, so it was a different beast. But like I said, I mean, Nation League was great, Gold Cup was great, but being here in Cincinnati, it's an opportunity for us to, play a tough side like Mexico and get the result that we want. Home games are definitely imperative for us, and getting that win is definitely huge, for this window. But we just take it game by game.
Next will be Sam Stejskal from The Athletic.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kellyn. Kellyn, you went the full 120 in both the Nations League final and the Gold Cup final this summer. It seemed like those matches, both of them kind of shared in common that they were really up and down, really fast-paced, really emotional. What did you take from those games? And what did you see from them kind of in the midfield? Do you think there was a lot of involvement for you guys on the ball and for Mexico? Or was it something where you're kind of locked in on duels and trying to get forward as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a rivalry, and it definitely showed in these two games, 120-minute games and game of details. And, obviously in the midfield, it's a tough matchup of, we get to guys like Hector Herrera, you had, Edson Alvarez in there as well. Just name a couple of players. And, yeah, it's a game of duels all over the field. And I think the team that wins more duels will hopefully prevail. And, we had, two great results in the summer. But, obviously it was definitely great for our confidence-wise. But being here in qualifiers is a different beast. Mexico right now, they're number one on the table. And for us, it's another opportunity to showcase ourselves and build momentum for qualifiers. And obviously, we want to be on top. So it's another opportunity to showcase our talents and our abilities and obviously gain a lot of confidence.
Next, we'll go to Michael DeCourcy from Sporting News.
Kellyn, the two games this summer were so different from one another, as well as the fact that you basically had almost entirely different rosters for the two. Was there any similarity that carried through those two games from what you observed and what you participated in?
Yeah, it's just games like, you're going to need the full time. You're not winning the game in the first minute. And it showed that each game we played 120 minutes, but each game brings different obstacles and challenges. You mentioned we had two different teams, but with both teams, everyone was ready and willing. And it shows with this mixed group here. It was huge. And, Mexico's a strong side. And, for us, it's another opportunity to showcase what we're all about and, be on the top of the table of qualifiers.
Next will be Daniel Nora from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Kellyn. Thank you for your time. Obviously, with this rivalry, we get the sense that it's something more than 3 points for you guys and for Mexico too. Do you know how to play this game and do you know how important it's to win against Mexico? How do you will explain that besides the 3 points?
Besides the 3 points, obviously, it's a Concacaf rival. We've played them a couple of times this year, and it's a huge opportunity. And for us, whenever you play against a team like Mexico, you always want the upper hand to get the win. Obviously, we beat them twice this year, and that's in the past. Now it's another opportunity. They're going to become guns blazing. I know they're going to want to come back at us, and it's an opportunity for us to kind of showcase what we're doing here. And obviously the 3 points is huge, but it's more so, building that confidence and show the world and everyone. The U.S. is here and we're a top team.
We'll go to Charles Bone from MLS Soccer.
Hey, Kellyn, thanks for speaking today. A question for you about Ricardo. who is walking a road similar to the one that you walked. And I know yours ended up having some twists and turns, but you were once a young kind of phenom getting thrust into the U.S.-Mexico spotlight. What do you see of Ricardo and how he's adapting to this moment? And I don't know if you have or would give him advice, but if you were to be asked to do that, maybe what would your perspective be given what you've lived?
Yeah, I mean, Ricardo, I mean, he's great. He's taken his opportunities really well. He's showcased well in MLS, and coming here with the national team, he's been great, scoring a bunch of goals, being a force up front. And for him, I mean, just keep going and doing what he's doing. I think he's a guy that's pretty level-headed, despite everything going around him. He's done a great job of being confident and quietly being a quiet assassin on the field, and credit to him. And it's just one of those games where he knows what's at stake, and I think he's ready. He's ready for the task, and as a team as a whole, we're all ready for it.
Next will be Ronald Blum from the Associated Press.
Hey, Kellyn, how do you balance the physicality expected of you in games like this and other qualifiers with not getting cards piled up on you?
Yeah, you just have to just go for it. Obviously, you don't want to get silly yellow cards, but if the game needs it, then it needs it. But you got to bring that physicality to the game, especially against a tough Mexican side. And for us, you can't really think too much about getting a yellow card. Obviously, we don't want red cards. But I mean, obviously, yellow cards are part of the game. But if we can minimize that as much as possible, it's huge. But we got to bring that physicality.
We'll go to Bruce Schoenfeld from ESPN.
Hey, Kellyn, thanks so much for doing this. I want to ask you about another teammate, DeAndre Yedlin. You guys kind of came on the scene at about the exact same time in 2013, have taken different paths. How has he evolved as a player in watching him up close and from afar over those 8 years? And secondarily, has he had any influence on you, or have you had an influence on him over those years?
I mean, I would hope so. I had an influence on him, but no, Dre's been tremendous. I mean, you've seen from his days at Seattle to Tottenham, Newcastle, Sunderland now, and Galatasaray. I mean, he's kind of been all over. A guy that's knows the national team well. Has I don't even know how many caps he's at now, but he's a veteran on the team. And vocally, I mean, he helps the young guys, and we came in at the same time, and to see him spring forward and getting the move to Europe and playing a World Cup, it's definitely inspiring. And I mean, he's not only a great player, but he's also a great guy. He definitely helps me, and just mentally, and that side, obviously building confidence, and because confidence is huge at this level. But yeah, D is one of the best teammates on the team, and he's a guy that I've known for several years now, and it's great to kind of to see how his career is shaped up and all that he's accomplished.
To help Kellyn out, DeAndre has 69 caps, the most 69 of any player on this U.S. roster. We'll go to Pat Brennan from the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Michael. Kellyn, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Just curious, because you're just a couple days removed from a huge result in the league, and now you come into, I think fair to say, not just any U.S. men's national team camp because of, not only is it World Cup qualifying, but the Mexico match in particular. What is that? Could you kind of just tell us what that transition is like, going from a big result in the league on Sunday to now preparing for this vital qualifier?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of the game. You guys just switch gears. Obviously, it was great for us to, get first in the West, and that was a huge accomplishment for my team and the club. But now, I mean, now I'm wearing the crest now, and now it's just got in yesterday, training today, and it's looking forward to Mexico game. And they're taking it game by game, and it's a huge rivalry. And we have all our focus on this match, and we're not worried about the Jamaica game yet. Obviously, Friday comes first, and that's what we're preparing for.
Well, take two more questions for Kellyn and start with Moises Linares.
Hey, Kellyn, we know this is a big game for both countries, U.S. and Mexico. We know that the level goes up through the roof when you guys play each other, but as a team, are there players on the other side that you look that you see and you're like, hey, that guy's a baller. I like how that guy plays. Is there people on the other side you guys talk about that you admire?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the guys play at their respective clubs and they put in, solid performances, like guys that I've matched up with in the midfield, like Hector Herrera. And you have, Tecatito playing at Porto and Edson Alvarez at Ajax, just to name a few. I mean, obviously those guys are, top players for their national team and at their clubs, and guys you got to be keen on that can change the game and that are influential for their team. Yeah, I mean, obviously you got Chucky as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously guys got to, have a look on. They, can change the game for them. And for us, I mean, we have guys, just as good or even better. So, yeah, I mean, I think Mexico can say the same thing about us, and as we can say the same thing about them.
Last question goes to Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Hey, Kellyn, when you look at the way that tournament soccer plays, obviously it's a different sort of mindset. When you go into those finals against Mexico, you have to be ready for 120 minutes. You might be a little bit more tentative. There might be a feeling out process that you don't necessarily get with a World Cup qualifier. So looking at this game, what sort of game do you expect? You said you expect them to come out guns a-blazing, but what do you kind of expect for them? Do you expect them to come out hot? Do you guys expect to come out hot? How do you kind of approach what this game will be played like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a home game, so we're expecting to come out, aggressive and being decisive as well. And I know they're going to try to match that intensity. But, being in a pro U.S. environment is definitely huge for us. And each home game is a game that has to be a must win. And we're going into that game with that mentality. And, it's going to be a game that's going to be physical, game of, inches and details. And sometimes the game doesn't go our way, and sometimes you got to be able to adjust and to adapt. And we've shown that in the previous matchups where the game was tough, but we were able to get through, weather storm, and definitely prevail. So whatever comes our way, we're gonna be resilient. We're gonna be able to adapt, and we're gonna be ready.
Thank you, Kellyn. We will be right back with Ricardo Pepi. We are back and joined by U.S. men's national team forward Ricardo Pepi. We will begin with questions and start with Stephen Goff from the Washington Post.
Hi, Ricardo. Thanks for your time. This is obviously an emotional game for you, given your background, your family's background. What are some of your memories watching U.S. Mexico World Cup qualifiers, specifically? Who was there? What was it like? What was going through your mind and through your heart?
Yeah, I remember when I was 10, 11 years old, I always remember just watching Mexico versus the U.S., every time they played. The special feeling, having my family besides me, just always rooting for the game. Honestly, it was just rooting for Mexico back then. And then now I'm, representing the U.S. So it's very important that, we go out there this next game and we go and get the win.
Next will be Brian Strauss.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Ricardo. Maybe following up on that a little bit, I assume you watched both the U.S. and Mexico growing up. I'm curious if you ever took note of Mexican Americans who might have been playing for the U.S. I mean, did you sort of follow that or have a favorite? Or was it maybe not something you really paid attention to in terms of where some of the U.S. guys might be from and their backgrounds?
Yeah, I feel like that was always, just a theme that I had to have in the back of my head, just always make sure I followed some of the Mexican American players that, were back then playing. I remember that, there were some players that I used to just follow their paths and be able to just, put myself in those shoes because I knew one day I was going to make the same decision. So, it was a very important thing for me to be able to look out for. But at the end of the day, I know I had to take my own path. And, I'm here with the U.S. And like I said, we have a very important game. And I want to make sure I represent the U.S. in a good way.
We'll go to Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael. Ricardo, following up on that question, kind of a theme here. I just wonder what it'll mean to you to be on the field for the anthems and to hear the Mexican anthem, to hear the American anthem. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a special feeling. It's going to be a special feeling. Having my family on the stands, having me with the U.S. jersey on, I feel like I'm going to get some goosebumps for sure. So, it's going to be that feeling where I'm going to be very motivated for the game and I'm going to be prepared for it. So, it's going to be good.
We'll go to Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Ricardo, for the time. We saw in Austin how many of your family were there. I'm curious as to how many of your family are going to be at this one.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be, a large part of my family. I feel like it's going to be at least 10 people on the stands. So, they're going to be supporting me and supporting the U.S.
Next will be Brian Sciaretta from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. Ricardo, in addition to yourself, we saw a bunch of other news with U.S. Soccer involving current and former FC Dallas players. I was wondering if you could talk a little about Jesus Ferreira and what it means to you and him to see how hard he's worked for the call-up and what he brings to this team. Then also, could you comment too on Mikey Varas getting the US U20 job and how he worked with you and helped in your development? Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is always a player who can bring something to the table. I feel like he's played different positions. He can play as a 9, he can play as a 10. So, he has that capability of just, he has that vision, he has that finishing. So, he's a special player with me on FC Dallas. We had some good chemistry, and bringing now that to the national team, I think it's very special for the both of us. And also about Mikey, he was my coach in the youth. I had him as the first team coach. He's a great coach. I feel like he's going to have a good career, I would say, as a U20 coach, and he's going to bring good things to the federation.
Next will be Ivis Galarcep from SBI Soccer.
Ricardo, one aspect of your game I wanted to ask you about is your ability to press, and you seem to really kind of take joy in that part of the game. Not every striker likes to do that dirty work. What is it about that part of the game that kind of makes you just buy into that job? And a separate question regarding Mexican Americans who have this decision to make choosing between the countries. Some other players have obviously chosen Mexico, like David Ochoa and Julian Araujo. What would be your advice to a player who's kind of in that position? Obviously, it's personal for each individual, but what if someone came to you with that decision and asked you, what's your biggest advice? What would be your biggest advice?
Yeah, when it comes to pressing on the field, I'm a player who likes to work hard. I like to work for my team. I like to run for my teammates. So when it comes to just the press, I feel like, it's a very important moment for us to win the ball up high, on the opponent's half. So I think that's very important for the team. And also, I like to just work hard and recover the ball close to the goal. So I think that's a little more motivating for me as a striker. And also, just
your advice.
My advice to any player who's in the Mexican American theme, I feel like I would say, just follow your own path and also just make your decision with your heart. I feel like it's very important to just be able to have a feeling, a connection between you and that national team that you're playing for. So just follow your heart.
Next will be Mike Watala from Soccer America.
Hi, thanks, Ricardo. Ricardo, as a forward, as a goal scorer growing up, and maybe even now, were there any particular forwards that you looked up to that you enjoyed watching? Maybe tried to learn from watching them, and from anywhere in the world. And were there any maybe Mexican national team players or U.S. national team players that you may have admired and watched?
There were definitely some Mexican national team players that I used to watch growing up. Players like Raul Jimenez, I used to always watch. Learn as a striker, just his movements, his technique, his shooting skills, and things like that. But as of now, I feel like I watch, players like Robert Lewandowski, Erling Haaland. I'm always trying to learn as a forward, because there's different types of forwards. So, I'm always trying to learn something new every day.
Ronald Blum from the Associated Press.
If you were thinking last spring and summer about your decision over which country to play for, did you play through your mind and envision what it would be like walking out for qualifier between U.S. and Mexico? And what went through your mind as you played that scene out?
Yeah, no, there was a talk that I had with my dad, I had with my family in general. And, I was just bringing everything to the table to them. I was talking about, what it would be like walking out playing in the game versus Mexico. I feel like we've talked about how special it would be and how motivating that would be for me just to be able to call up to the national team, be able to play in that game. So, that made me work harder as a player, just, staying humble and always working hard.
Next will be Charlie Bone from MLS Soccer.
Hey, Ricardo. Hey, Michael. Thank you guys both. Ricardo, you won your spot, a few months ago when you first got your call up, but it's one thing to sort of come first in a crowded field of strikers and get opportunities. And that's another to be basically the only true number 9 that's been called into this camp. And Greg has said that he plans to give you most of the minutes and kind of ride your form and depend on you. So I wonder what that feels like for you. Is that a different vibe coming into this camp, and how do you face that?
Yeah, I feel like as a national team player, you always have to prove yourself. You don't have a spot saved for the team. You don't have a starting spot that's always going to be there for you. I feel like every day you get an opportunity, you have to take the opportunity and be able to show yourself out. So I feel like I've been doing that, and just being able to be called up, not only as a true striker, but I feel like I have Jesus behind me, who's also a good player, who's also just pushing me to be better, and I'm pushing him to be better. So it's always that competition between the teammates that are going to make each other better.
We'll go to Daniel Nora from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Ricardo, obviamente en estos partidos todo el mundo siente que son más de 3 puntos los que están en juego, que hay algo más. ¿Qué es ese algo más que está en juego? ¿Cómo se lo explicarías a la gente? ¿Por qué es tan importante que Estados Unidos siempre le gane a México? Y lo otro que te quiero preguntar muy corto, los 2 pasados fueron juegos que, más allá de que se jugaron en Estados Unidos, había mayoría de público mexicano. El viernes no va a ser así. ¿Qué tan importante será eso para ustedes?
No, creo que no nomás son los 3 puntos que estamos jugando. Creo que es un partido de cualificatorias para la Copa Mundial. Obviamente estamos aquí en casa, tenemos que ganar todos los juegos que se puedan ganar aquí en casa. Creo que eso es importante. Y no, creo que es importante también la mayoría de los fanáticos que sean americanos. Como has dicho, creo que en cualquier otro partido siempre han sido la mayoría mexicanos. Creo que va a ser importante para nosotros para tener el apoyo de los fanáticos y salir y tener el mejor juego que sea posible.
We'll go to Oscar Gallardo from ESPN Mexico.
Thanks. Hola, Ricardo. Buenas tardes. Me gustaría conocer tu punto de vista en este momento. Si crees que recientemente tomaste la mejor decisión de representar a los Estados Unidos, recordando el caso de algunos mexicoamericanos que fueron llamados por México y que hoy no figuran, como Yona González? ¿Crees que con Estados Unidos puedas tener mejores oportunidades con tu selección o de jugar en Europa? Gracias.
No, creo que hasta el momento sí he tomado la mejor decisión. Creo que la Federación de Estados Unidos siempre estaba ahí para apoyarme desde que yo estaba desde que tenía 13, 14 años, siempre han estado ahí apoyándome. Creo que me han dado las oportunidades de estar donde estoy ahorita. La verdad sí es la mejor decisión que he tomado en el momento.
We'll go to Sophie Nicolau.
Hi, Ricardo. Just wondering, you've made such an incredible impact. It's making waves in the UK and Europe as well, of course, with your performances. Who are your influences and who are you looking at in terms of mentors right now in your career, with everything that is in front of you in terms of, the potential that you have to kind of really make waves in football?
Yeah, no, there's conversations that I have, with Coach Greg. I have conversations with my teammates here in the national team, players like Christian Pulisic, players like Weston McKennie, who I always try to take advice from because, they're in that place in Europe, just playing at the highest level of soccer. So those are players that I always try to talk to and just get some advice from them. And also just my family and my agent, I think they're very important for me to just be able to keep my mind in what's next and not focus on the future.
Well, Ricardo has a meeting in 2 minutes, so we're going to excuse him for now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this afternoon. We'll see you the same time tomorrow.